there's a lot of crap going on at the moment with EV versus ICE. Electric vehicle versus internal combustion engine. Personally, I like solar. I've been camping for many years and I have a solar and battery setup for my fridge whenever I go away. Not to protect the environment, but to keep the beer cold. There's nothing worse than having warm beer when you're camping. But the practical idea of solar, batteries, and 12-volt fridges, amazing concept. It's really improved getting away, getting out, and enjoying your environment and your outdoor areas. But this whole thing about electric is going to save the planet, I don't think even a greenie really understands what a fossil fuel is. They've probably never really thought about it, but I'm going to go into an explanation to try to explain that a fossil fuel isn't what you think it is. Now, the theory is that all these animals died, all the dinosaurs died, and they turned into coal, and all the plants died and turned into coal and turned into oil and turned into gas and so on and so forth. But there's a few little things that don't add up. And one of them is atmospheric pressure. Sounds a bit weird at the moment, but I moved to Maitland in 1979 at the beginning of a 5-year drought. And we would drive along and see animals in paddocks, and over time you would see, because there was no feed, no grass, everything was dying and dead, we could not even water our plants because we only had a 1 hour period where we were allowed to water our plants. And you would literally hold a hose and it would go drip, drip, because 40,000 people were trying to do the same thing at the same time. You would see animals just fall over in a paddock. You drive past a couple of days later, a week later, a month later, animal had completely and utterly disappeared. The birds got to them. The ants got to them. The reptiles, everything came along and actually ate the carcass of that animal. Even chewed down the bones to get to the marrow. And that animal just poof, disappeared. We're told that the leaves and the plant matter fall onto the ground. That plant matter builds up and turns into enough to push down, become peat or moss or whatever they call it, or mulch, and then it builds up and builds up and builds up and turns into coal over a period of time. And then as the pressure builds onto that, the coal gets pressed further and further and further and further and further and becomes diamonds. That's what we're all taught, right? There's one little factor that doesn't come into play that the scientists haven't worked this out yet. Now, if you've ever been scuba diving, surfing, or generally into water sports, you may have worn a watch that said waterproof to 50 meters or 5 atmospheres. Common thing a lot of people had on their watch. 1 atmosphere is 10 meters, 2 atmospheres is 20 meters, and so on down to 5 atmospheres at 50 meters of pressure. The problem is when we're standing here, right here, on the surface of the earth, there's no pressure. We're talking about an atmosphere of pressure. But what happens when leaves fall off trees? This is what happens. They blow away. They blow away in the wind. We have a whole bunch of leaves like this in this circumstance that pull together, but on a hot summer's day, they dry out and they literally crumble and disappear into the dust. So how is it that Scientists tell us that this open cut coal mine started from leaves falling on the ground. When this is what happens when leaves fall on the ground. When we moved to Maitland in 79, we went down and visited a wreck on Stockton Beach, and it hit the shores in 1975. They cut it in half, salvaged half of it, the rest sat there. And we used to go down and check it out over many, many years, had a couple of full drives, went down to Stockton Beach and checked it out. Now, when you go down there, there's no wreck. The ocean has literally taken the wreck and it now has disappeared. An entire steel structure disappeared over a couple of decades. Look at the Titanic. The Titanic sank over 100 years ago. But they reckon it's not going to last another 100 years, that the ocean will actually destroy the Titanic. It will, in 100 years, it's not going to be there. Yet, scientists tell us that these leaves here turn into this coal mine. How is that even possible? I think scientists need to go back to the drawing board and start on their theories all over again. And I think the scientists that are telling us that we have to go EV need to sit down and work out where their arse is so they can grab it by both hands and tell us the truth. Because the fact is this, what they're telling us ain't the truth.